Me in sunglasses around my studio comfort zone. Yeah, with a do-rag back in 50 cent terms. I know it seems all too good to be true and not new. But you know what is really good to this, and it's okay? It's that you're always used to this. And what I'm talking about is exactly the perimeters of sitting here and listening to me alongside a co-host give to you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Certainly this durag is not going anywhere, and certainly I am not either. So if you certainly do not know who I am, you can't read, or for some reason you're also in that dimension where you think Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn is a good WrestleMania match, then I suggest you go ahead and you go back to school, pick up whatever book you need to read, or listen to what I'm about to say, because I am the one and only person that can lead you to the island of relevancy. And that is me, the phenomenal one. And alongside me is a co-host that is well known to almost every single other person as a human encyclopedia. And that is the one, the only, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. So give me 2 claps and a peep snatch. Woo!
Woo! I am here. We are here. The deep voice Dynamo is back here with you. How you doing?
Of course, peeps, glad to have you here. And certainly to the others, those that are sitting here watching probably on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, children, boys and girls, children of all ages, to Saturday afternoon's main event, episode 5. Certainly back after 2 weeks, so it's certainly good to go ahead and be back, peeps. Of course, we always go ahead and let you guys know any updates, any good news, anything that you guys want to go ahead and share with us is already down there at that ticker at Saturday afternoons _main event, or on Twitter at Saturday Main. But nevertheless, peeps.
Yes.
The 20s are somehow into it today. We got Darrell Revis right behind me, number 24. We got 25 out there for Reggie Bullock, also Derrick Rose, but that's my certainly good number. And of course, I'm wearing a WrestleMania 29 jacket, but the 20s are much more significant today. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, judging by the theme song playing, which is Limp Bizkit Crack Addict, certainly I do not want each and every single one of y'all to be that, but since y'all already are, we'll leave it at that. But we are officially 28 days away from the phenomenal, extravagant, stupendous 2-night event, which is also a premium live event, certainly not pay-per-view no more, but it's known to all and every single person on God's green earth as WrestleMania 30. Certainly, but 28 days away. Wow. Peeps, we're officially on the road to something good, even though we're looking forward to at least 4 or 5 matches, but what can we say? It's wrestling.
Yeah. It's wrestling. At the same time, it's the current sphere of what we're looking at for pro wrestling right now. I can't even call it pro wrestling, sports entertainment. The pro wrestling aspect of it is with a different company, which we'll probably talk about later on in the show.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
But
yeah.
For now, shoot. It still keeps going. It keeps going.
Yes.
28 days, though, everybody. 28 days. But certainly, Saturday afternoon's main event wouldn't be same without going ahead and starting off the show with the one and only Fast Track. Going ahead and start off news. We can't go ahead and get to everything, but this is what Fast Track is here for. Let's try to go ahead and get through some of the topics. And the first one, McMahon to induct Calloway. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we all know who the hell McMahon is. But for those that, once more, haven't been to school or don't know who the heck Calloway is, it is the one man that I consider to be the greatest, most stupendous, and once-in-a-generation talent of a professional wrestler that has ever graced this business, The Undertaker. Just this past week, on the Pat McAfee Show, Vince McMahon was a special guest, and on the show, he went ahead and gave the bombshell news that he will be inducting The Undertaker into this year's Hall of Fame. Peeps, why it couldn't be anybody better, right?
Exactly. I think based on the only other, there are really only two other people that could have inducted him. One would have been his wife, which I don't think would be happening, and the other one would have been Kane, Glenn Jacobs. But if you've been following Twitter and you know what kind of nonsense has been going on his side,
Yes,
I don't think the WWE wants to have any more controversy
as it already
attached to
has.
something like this. So basically, going into that, you know what's going on. Basically, let's say this is the single best thing that they could do right now.
Oh yes,
We know if you looked at that entire documentary that Taker did for his retirement year for WrestleMania, just it's been 2 years already. Yeah, but going over to almost 2 years now since his last run, with his last cinematic, I almost said in-ring match, but you say last match in general against AJ Styles. You'd have to say that this makes the most sense.
of course.
We know how Vince feels about Mark Calloway. Forget about The Undertaker, about Mark Calloway. He looks at him as family because he created the character. He's gone through the highways and byways with him, developing the character, getting in with him as far as his life, developing the relationship with him. He was tough with them. Then there were times when he had to ease off. Taker has always been the conscience of the locker room. He's been the locker room judge, jury, and in a lot of instances, executioner. Literally, yes. He's been fair. He's also been foul, as he said himself. But he also knows that he has been, without question, for the last 3 decades, has been the eyes and the ears and the conscience of the link between the WWE fans of yesteryear, writing, creative, and the head of the board of the WWE and Vince McMahon. And it couldn't have happened to a better person. And I will challenge, maybe this is the case, we don't know yet because we still got at least another 4 weeks to go. I would not be surprised if The Undertaker was the only person getting inducted.
Oh,
it's going to be in Dallas, where he's from. We know he needs to get that respect because outside of filler, there is no way, shape, or form that anyone else can precede him or come after him. It's going to be Mark Calloway, and that is it.
That's the thing, Peace. You see, there was always one thing that I always said, and I can say, and my uncle says it too, we all say it. If there is one person in this industry who deserves the Andre treatment of going into the Hall of Fame by himself, without a shot of a doubt, has to be The Undertaker. Nevertheless,
yes.
Has to be. I mean, from everything in the industry, rebranded his character how many different times and was still finding a way to be fresh with the fans. And from the climactic matches to the crazy promos to some of the barbaric things he did back in the 90s, which I mean,
some of that stuff bordered on bat crap crazy. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, because we kind of thought for a second dude was a kook, but that is just what speaks volumes to his character, because at least he had us motivated to sit there and actually say to ourselves that, wow, this is The Undertaker. Whoa, he's But you always stay in awe of the character. So I mean, what better way to go into the Hall of Fame by getting the Andre treatment and by being inducted by the chairman of the board? Makes its case, right? Certainly, yes. Vince, this is the one thing I'm actually cool with you with for, because I mean, it's The Undertaker. If it wasn't for anything else, I probably would have shat on you, but it's okay. It's okay, because Vince McMahon inducting The Undertaker, so we're good on that.
Oh yeah, it's going to be emotional. There's going to be tissues. It's going to be a tearjerker.
Oh yes.
But as much as I have railed on Vince over the longest time, and I've railed on him for a very long time, even way back when. If you're looking at what he's doing with The Undertaker now, based on what he has accomplished and what he has done, this is his single biggest, most impactful creation for his business that has given even more credence to what WrestleMania is today. And to look at it like this, this is to give you an idea of what this is. Brock Lesnar has been looked at as invincible, not just because of his own physical gifts, but because of him ending the streak of The Undertaker, which people still to this day could not understand why it happened. But you know the reason why everybody looks at Brock in the way that they do is because he beat The Undertaker and ended that streak at WrestleMania. And if it didn't happen, the perception of Brock today would not be anywhere near where it is if it was not for that. That goes to show you how important to the business, just not only him being there, but the fact that he gave literally a spiritual rub to another person that probably did not need it because of that. You can't get much more important than that.
Certainly can't. So big ups to the Taker and big ups to Vince McMahon on this prestigious opportunity. And from there, we'll move into more WrestleMania news, which I can't. Peeps, listen, how many celebrity matches are we getting this year at WrestleMania? I cannot begin to fathom my utter disobedience to the company, knowing the fact that Johnny Knoxville is going against Sami Zayn. And what makes it better? Listen, for y'all that didn't watch SmackDown last night, I'm going to spoil it for you. Sami lost the Intercontinental title.
On his first title defense, no less.
Yup. And not even at a major pay-per-view. Which we thought it may have happened at a major pay-per-view, but no, on a SmackDown show. You know, it's funny how it was happening in Miami, and I thought about going, but shoot, to think that I could have saw Ricochet go ahead and capture a title for the first time in my life, that would have been cool. But hey, it's okay, it happens, right? But straight up, okay, Knoxville, cool with that. Logan Paul with The Miz against the Mysterios, okay, cool with that. There's still more news going around that we might be getting Stone Cold versus Kevin Owens. I don't know about that so much. But now, once more, just last night, again, we hear that Pat McAfee is going against Austin Theory. Peeps, you cannot make this up. Take over before I hit highlight this to start the show. You're good. Take over. I'll tag you in.
Okay. Where do I start? Vince McMahon has, and you've heard me say this many times before on this worldwide program that we do.
Yes. International,
worldwide internet program. Those that know, I have stated before that Vince McMahon is not into the wrestling business. He said it himself on the Pat McAfee Show interview just a couple days ago. He just said that himself. He is not into wrestling. He doesn't necessarily care about the in-ring stuff. True, you can be a great wrestler, you can do moves, you can have those great kinds of matches, but he is into content creation. I reiterate that every week that we do this show. And then nothing is more pertinent to this than to having celebrities. When you bring in a celebrity, you bring that much more attention to a card, and it's going to get, as we live now in the social media age, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're going to get likes, you're going to get mentions, people are going to be tweeting, people are going to be trending. Oh, did you see this celebrity? Did you see that celebrity? Did you see what happened there? That's the only reason why that part happens. But if he cared about wrestling, there would be less celebrities and there would be more wrestling, especially since the name of the show was WrestleMania. I mean, it's frustrating when you look at a show, you're going to have at least one or two celebrities associated with WrestleMania. That's the way it's been since WrestleMania 1 in March of 1985. I can't believe I'm old enough to say that, but it is what it is. But every WrestleMania has always headlined with some kind of celebrities, whether it was Muhammad Ali, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, any of those stars that are out there that have usually been ancillary to the outside and the periphery. They weren't necessarily a part of the show proper. What we've seen over the last 15 or 20 years now are celebrities participating in matches. We all remember the Drew Carey stuff from the Royal Rumble years ago. Yes. Host of The Price is Right is in a match on a pay-per-view, at least when they were called pay-per-views.
Don't forget the minute where don't even forget when they had, a fake Bill Clinton at WrestleMania 10, but, we don't get into that one.
Don't get me started on that. Or it'll be another 35, 40 minutes.
Yes. No worry. We'll just move past that.
Yeah. I'll suplex that over to the side.
Certainly.
We can go on the Pete Rose saga from WrestleMania 13 and 14 and 15, etc., to having Bam Bam Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor in the main event of the WrestleMania.
Which was not the main event.
The celebrities have always been intricately intertwined into the fabric of WrestleMania because that's all what Vince McMahon looks at. It's entertainment. It's Hollywood mixed in with wrestling. That's supposed to be the connective tissue. But when you start to sacrifice what fans have spent a full year building towards as you go into WrestleMania season, as they call it, knowing that the Royal Rumble usually sets up the feuds going in, even though some of those feuds have been going an entire year, and this is supposed to be the payoff. Why are there so many celebrity matches at the sacrificing of so many other talents that were there? Maybe it has something to do with the fact that there were 80 or so wrestlers released in the last year that they couldn't put faces and bodies in the ring to actually have something compelling instead of having Johnny Jackass Knoxville in a ring versus somebody who should be having a real match. Or how about this idea? Why didn't they save Ricochet and Sami Zayn for WrestleMania, have them have their match, and then Knoxville could, instead of being in the match, could be the window dressing, the oregano on the pasta dish, so to speak, as the seasoning, and not being the main course. Because if you have Johnny Knoxville as a match, it's going to make you sick. And I will need the Pepto. I will need all of the other stuff that goes on.
Pepto, milk of magnesia. I mean, Lord have mercy on my soul.
Yes.
Whole detox. Yes.
Yes. So it's overdone with the celebrities. It's going to be a 2-day show, so they're going to have to do that because they need bodies for, I'm going to guess, both days are going to be at least 4 hours, 3 hours. So they're going to need the bodies. But to see celebrities sprinkled throughout WrestleMania, we last year with Bad Bunny and some of the other stuff that we've seen, yeah. But
I think it's just oversaturated. It's just oversaturated.
It's way overdone. Vince has an over-reliance on not only celebrities, but on nostalgia. Because where else would you see a wrestling promotion, even if it's just rumors, a rumor of a 57-year-old man who has had chronic neck injuries come back potentially to wrestle somebody who's a full-time wrestler who is 260 pounds? Where else in this industry, especially in a company like this, would you hear about the best matches are going to be somebody who's 50 years old, who hasn't wrestled on a full-time basis in over a decade? In Edge. We'll talk about that later. But my point being is that Vince always goes to the nostalgia arm, and he stays with the nostalgia arm way too often and does not build the younger guys that are supposed to be getting that push, getting that rub, so that they can be the next Roman Reigns or the next Randy Orton or the next whoever star comes out. If you don't stick with them, they're not going to stay there.
Certainly not. But hey, we'll just probably six more celebrities. How much
I wouldn't be surprised. And then you're going to probably have a special referee that comes out of, maybe it'll be somebody from the NFL. Maybe Charles Barkley will be a special ring announcer or something. Who knows?
Conor McGregor as special timekeeper for the Raw Women's title match. Who knows, for God's sake?
Who knows? Yeah.
But you spoke on Edge a couple of minutes, prior to this, and it's funny that you said that because that was the next topic. AJ Styles versus Edge is best for business. This past Monday night on Raw, we got to go ahead and see that this match was certainly taking place, although we saw it coming. AJ Styles versus Edge. And the best part about it, we are getting 2006 Edge. The Adam Copeland that would steal a person's wife. The Adam Copeland who costed John Cena the WWE title at One Night Stand 2006, I believe. The same Edge who was the ultimate opportunist at New Year's Revolution. The same Edge who would go ahead and hit concertos to any face wrestler just to go ahead and have little kids cry and shout other words that you wouldn't believe that a kid would go ahead and shout. And trust me, it's true. It's damn true. Why would I know that? Because I was one of them. But we are getting this Edge, and we are getting somewhat of the New Japan AJ Styles. Peeps, having these two worlds collide is one of those dream matches that we wish to want to go ahead and see, and now that it's finally happening, what do you think?
I am all for it. I remember having a conversation with a good friend of mine over this and saying that even with Edge not having an opponent, when he first started this 2 weeks ago, he would get in the ring. I'm looking for that next WrestleMania moment. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to have. So somebody in the back has to have enough grapefruits to come out and challenge me and have the kind of match that I want to have. And the first and only name outside of people that are not in the company that popped into my head is AJ Styles. Now, I know that the WWE were really pushing AJ and Omos.
Yeah.
And we, from what I read, they said that they had a match at a house show and it was absolutely awful. So they scrapped that and just said, let Omos do his thing. Let him get his experience away from this and move on. And they did that by putting AJ in NXT briefly to have a couple of matches on NXT to kind of percolate a feud, and then kind of almost like a mouth cleanser. You say, you already had, you tasted something, just rinse your mouth out and let's get you back out there with fresh breath, with a fresh opinion, fresh mindset going in. And the first person you pick is Edge versus AJ Styles. This match has the potential, and I don't say this lightly. This has the potential to be a Steamboat Savage quality match. Those two wrestlers are that kind of talents. To get them in the ring and do what they do best with a clear face and a clear heel. Now, they've been kind of tweening AJ a little bit. They have clearly made the distinction. The line in the sand has been drawn. AJ is the face, Edge is the heel. And after that program that Edge just came off of with The Miz, he needed a palate cleaner. There are no wives involved. There are no side storylines going in as far as that goes. Let's build this. And what did they do? They started with the concerto, or a pair of concertos heard around the world. And I'm pretty sure AJ heard those two as well, because it's probably still rattling around in his brain right now.
Certainly.
But the way it was sold, the speeches that they gave, the interviews, the way they cut the promos, the emotion that was involved. And of course, when Edge loses his mind, the first thing he does is he starts pulling at his hair because he's conflicted, and he shows that in the emotion in his face. That's what I want to see. And I want to see AJ come back with that same kind of intensity between now and WrestleMania, so that when this match takes place, I want to get at least 25 minutes of the best of both Edge and AJ, who are both in their 40s and are still probably better than most of the roster that's there in that company. That's what I want to see. That will make a WrestleMania. And if it wasn't for the fact that it was WrestleMania, that could have been a main event on any other card.
Exactly.
I hand it to you.
I mean, you hit it right on the money, peeps. It's Edge, it's AJ Styles, it's WrestleMania. And I mean,
I hope I'm not overselling this a little bit too much, but
listen,
I'm really thinking that, yes.
Overselling. Listen, the minute Edge went ahead and put out the word phenomenal in his promo to go ahead and start this whole feud, prior to even thinking that AJ Styles was going to face him. Once I heard phenomenal, I said, hold on, let me make sure I put aside my $10 for Peacock for April, because God already knows that this is one match that I need to see.
Yes.
Edge, AJ Styles, it's self-explanatory. You got AJ Styles, probably one of the single best high flyers, one of the people that carried SmackDown for a good amount of time, the face that runs the place, put on amazing matches with John Cena. We've seen the matches with Shinsuke. The first two, the other ones
until they started to screw with them.
Yes. Samoa Joe. We remember AJ back in TNA when he was in the whole feud with the Aces and Eights. We saw him being a part of Bullet Club back in New Japan. And now we're getting Edge. And this is not PG-tuned Edge. You know, this is Edge. Adam Copeland, the one, the only ultimate opportunist. Not the other one that they try to go ahead and put in our minds as the face. I'm talking heel. Because after that low blow hit, and he looked at the camera, that gave me flashbacks to One Night Stand when he took off the whole, bike helmet, and it reveals his face, and the hair's already, frizzy, that he looks conflicted, and I said to myself, yeah, Peacock is getting a run for my money because I'm paying for WrestleMania this year. There is no ifs, ands, or maybes about it. These guys have single-handedly dominated the industry at what they do. Putting them together, the names itself, you already get goosebumps and you're already thinking to yourself, oh man, what a match is going to be. But I tell you the truth, peeps. When that bell rings and that match officially begins, imagine the chants that will go around AT&T Stadium.
Oh,
when
yeah.
these guys face off, face to face in that ring, whole WrestleMania special gear and everything. The glitz, the glamour, the lights, the cameras. Forget it, peeps. It's a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
Do you see that? I have goosebumps.
Exactly.
The goosebumps are right there.
Hair is standing up and everything.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
telling you the truth. This right here is going to be something to watch. And we just have to wait and see what happens. But, speaking on something that will be good to watch, peeps, give AEW creative writers an Emmy and give CM Punk and MJF Oscars. This past Wednesday night on AEW Dynamite, which is, I believe, on TBS, we got to go ahead and see the climactic go-home special, which was Punk calling MJF to the ring, somewhat probably going into words that weren't said through mic, but you can see it on camera, the emotion and everything. Punk puts out his hands for a hug. MJF takes the hug. Mere seconds after going ahead and indulging into that hug and somewhat showing emotion, we got a low blow heard around the world.
You sure he wasn't trying to sweep the leg? And they just missed?
I mean,
they swept the leg and hit him in the yam bag. That's what happened.
Certainly, it was way worse than that. But I mean, peeps, now leading up to this match is something way crazier, because now it's like, after that, he busted Punk open. Punk is outside. Dog collar attached to his neck. And MJF grabs the mic. And when you know that when MJF grabs the mic, the words that will come out of his mouth is going to be legendary.
Yes.
And he said, the words that he said, you old dog. I mean, sir, you real old man. The biggest thing that the devil ever did was make every single other person believe that he didn't exist. And this Sunday at Revolution, I will show you and each and every single one of these little sheep that I am the devil himself. Peeps, I sat there when I heard that. I just heard the first two lines and I was like, wait, this sounds like Punk back in Ring of Honor when he faced Raven. And Raven used those same exact words back in ECW when he was facing Sandman. So where is this all leading to? Peeps, the writing, everything from that. I mean, peeps, I could you not. Revolution this Sunday, it's gotten more hype to me than WrestleMania. That's how it feels right now.
Yes.
Because the card is stacked. But this match, wow, what can we say?
Yes.
Take it off, Peace,
It,
because
it,
I'm gonna say more. I'm gonna say more after you, but I'm just,
yeah.
the emotion is there. But
Yes.
you can continue before I take off too much from you, dog.
This is the reason why, for all of the druthers that people have given AEW, from the way that they book the women's division to how referees seemingly don't seem to referee anything. The one thing that AEW has over the WWE, and they haven't been doing it anywhere near as long because this is only a 3-year company,
Yes.
but the way that they have crafted certain storylines and have paid long-term attention. And I'm not talking about just a few months, a couple of weeks. They're taking storylines and crafting them as almost having Easter eggs within those storylines that only people that are either hip to the business or just really, really in tune to look for these kinds of things in other interviews. There are hints at certain things in certain storylines that only keen-eyed people catch. And this is the one thing that AEW has over the WWE, is that they allow some of this stuff to happen organically. Now, sometimes it can be a mess. Sometimes certain storylines make no sense. Sometimes certain match types make no sense. Yeah. But the MJF CM Punk feud, and you can call this a bona fide feud. This is a feud from the territory days. This is a feud from Jim Crockett Promotions type level of excitement. And if you take a look at how they've crafted this from the beginning, and then Punk basically having to look like a heel in certain instances because he's away from the business and he's trying to tell everybody, I'm still who I am, coming across as somewhat cocky, but maybe not seeing what he's done to certain people, and then the interview that he had, and then the part that glued this together was the masterpiece of MJF equating to those that he had ADD, he was made fun of, he was put in certain instances where he was looked at because he's Jewish, having racial slurs put at him. He was a football star, but then he quit because he wanted to be a wrestler because his favorite wrestler was CM Punk. All of that played in, and the emotion, and what it did was it made the wrestling fan vulnerable.
Yes.
Wrestling fans are not made to feel vulnerable anymore. And I'll give you an example. When Hogan and Andre had their feud at WrestleMania 3, and that built from literally the third year anniversary of Hogan being WWF champion, which was in January of '87, because he won it in '84.
Yeah.
It was a celebration of him having a championship to a trophy, and his best friend Andre feeling slighted. Like, all of this time, I was there for you when I won the belt, but, when are you going to give me a title shot? And it went from that to weeks later, him coming out with Bobby Heenan, and then Andre feeling more of a slight, and then feeling upset, and then saying, you know what, I want the championship. And if you remember him ripping the crucifix with the cut on his chest, and then because the cut wasn't supposed to happen, but it just added drama to it. And then it just got more and more personal until you get into the match. And I remember saying this to a friend of mine years ago, when at WrestleMania 3, when they announced the tale of the tape, and they announced Hogan was at 294 pounds. For most people remember, he had always been billed at 303 pounds or 302 pounds. And in my childhood brain, I'm like, wait a minute, he's losing weight? He's worrying. Oh man, he's going to lose. I can't believe it. The fan has been made to feel vulnerable because you really believe that what's going on in that ring, as far as what those wrestlers are doing, although it may be predetermined, you feel latched on and invested to what that wrestler is saying and what they're doing. So now we fast forward back to what happened on Wednesday, and that whole build and everything that CM Punk went in and said, I may not be a great guy, but I'm trying, sticks his hand out to shake his hand, and then MJF gives him that big bear hug. MJF is crying, tears, and I'm like, wow, this guy really has me hooked. And then, of course, he gives him a field goal for 3 points, drops CM Punk in the ring, and then literally proceeds to desecrate his body while he's right there by beating him. He gets the ring, he cracks him in the head, busts him open, and now he's bleeding all over the place. And takes off his jacket. He's got a shirt. What does the shirt have a picture of? A picture of himself and CM Punk from when he was 12 years old is right on the shirt. And then put the dog collar around his neck and let him hang there. And anybody that has ever seen any of these wrestling matches from way back in the 80s and in the 70s, as far as what violence really was in those kinds of matches, this is how you build a violent match. And a dog collar match, for those that have not seen it, that think it's some sort of dinky, silly, whatever, I implore you, I can't believe I'm saying this, I'm going to plug the network. If you have Peacock, go and watch Starrcade 83 and watch Roddy Piper versus Greg Valentine for the United States Championship in the dog collar match. And the reason why I reference that is that match in 1983 was so violent. Roddy Piper lost almost all of the hearing in his ear because he was popped really hard by Valentine with right hands and hit with the chain, and he was beaten all over the place. Both guys are bleeding. They tried to saw each other's heads off with the chains. I'm going to tell you right now, if you are a wrestling fan, that is the match, and that's the way you build a match, because that is what it is. It's all about the organic build for a match like that. And then I'll give it to you.
Those, and I'm just going to say one last thing before we move on to the next one, and for those that are probably sitting there and saying, okay, I don't have Peacock, but I still want to watch this match. On Sunday, or now, go ahead, order Revolution on Bleacher Report, sit there and watch it, because if there's one thing that I, as a wrestling fan, know, us wrestling fans back in the Ruthless Aggression era days, we enjoyed one thing, and that was those wrestlers pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into everything that we thought was real. This match right here, it will be that. And on top of everything else, the one thing that's go ahead and just seal the deal for you guys. Let me go ahead and put the mic into perspective. Attention, there will be blood. So yes, go ahead and get Revolution, because I know I'm going to be sitting there. Peeps, you're sitting there too.
Oh, yes.
Oh, we're cooped in, man.
Yes.
This is going to be it. This is going to be
good. It's going to be good.
It's going to be good. From there, something that isn't good. Cesaro's out.
You hear me tapping on the paper already. You hear me already.
But it's not good for us because he wasn't used right. But you know something that's good. Why? Because he will be used elsewhere. It's Cesaro. A good way of going ahead and saying this is that Cesaro is one of the best wrestlers that I've seen in the modern era on this on that WWE roster. From 2012 till the moment he left, Cesaro has been nothing less of an amazing professional wrestler. All the moves, I mean the things that I've seen him do, trust me, man's going to AEW. If it's not AEW, it's Impact. If it's not Impact, he might just go to New Japan, for God's sakes. He isn't needed on the indies if that's up to me. But who knows? With the acquisition of one company, maybe, just maybe, we catch him in Ring of Honor, you know? But that's later on for the show. But certainly Cesaro's out. Peace, what is your take on this?
WWE's loss is someone else's gain. And I'm going to tell you right now, what I think is the issue is that the WWE, as far as when I see guys coming into the business, and most people, they come from, let's say, they come from an independent promotion, or they're young growing up looking at wrestling. The first thing in their mind is WWE is end all be all. I'm going to go there because I know I love the business. That is what I'm going to do. And then you get there and then you realize it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's hell, brimstone, and fire. And the eternal burning of a person's career doesn't help when you're trying to make sure that you stay as cool as you can while you wait to get that push. And I'm going to go by his name, is Claudio Castagnoli, is everything that Claudio has done in his career from he was in OVW. Jim Cornette knows what kind of wrestler this guy is,
yes.
knowing what kind of moves, what kind of repertoire he is. 6'5", 235 pounds. He doesn't look as big as you think he is, but he's tall, he's lanky, he's a muscular guy, but incredibly one of the strongest men I have ever seen. I've said this before to anybody that knows me. The single strongest wrestler that I've ever seen in my eyes is Dr. Death Steve Williams, rest in peace. I saw him, Dr. Death, press Terry Bam Bam Gordy, another big 300-pound wrestler, another person that rest in peace, press him over his head 10 times, then lock his arms, run around the ring in a circle, and then launch him into the corner. That's power. Cesaro is literally on that same kind of strength regimen. He has that kind of power. He's as strong as a bull and as graceful as a gazelle. And he shows you every week what he can do. And the fact that it's criminal what they did to this guy. They stuck him in a tag team, which, as far as I'm concerned, with Sheamus, and they were known as the Bar. That showed you what kind of really good talent he is. And those that know of Claudio Castagnoli before he got there, we know he was a great tag team wrestler because in Ring of Honor, he was teamed up with Chris Hero in the tag team called the Kings of Wrestling, which was another great tag team, which showed you what kind of skills he had. And the sad part is he re-signed with the WWE. And the re-signing, which was about a year ago, they gave him a mini push where they put him in the ring against, I believe it was against Roman Reigns. Gave him one shot. And then, oh, well, maybe he could, maybe. Then they yanked his push. He's back to where he is now. And now he's out of the company. And then I've said this before, with all of these corporate moves that this company is doing and Nick Khan firing and moving guys out now, Cesaro wasn't fired. He's left. He didn't re-sign his contract. He's a free agent, so he could pop up anywhere now. But as I said before, this one should hurt the WWE, not just as a company, but as a fan base, because the fans really connected with Cesaro. Both of us connected with Cesaro. There's millions of people that are looking at WrestleMania when it comes on and wonder, well, Cesaro could have had a great match. He could have been in a... Cesaro is one of those guys that fell through the cracks because the WWE, in a lot of instances, have certain talents that they have no idea how to use. He's just looked at as he's dependable. He can give you a good match. We'll throw him in a makeshift tag team. He'll do a couple of feats of whatever, but we'll never push him because, one, he can't quote unquote talk. He doesn't have a look. He doesn't have the body frame, whatever Vince looks at as far as pushing a guy. This is absolutely criminal as far as I'm concerned. And whoever let this man let him through the cracks and let him just walk away should be arrested for impersonating a wrestling fan.
Nick Khan.
Yes. But I don't know what I'm talking about. Apparently, it's just the 800-pound gorilla in the room. But I digress. There's your first one. I was trying.
You're trying your hardest.
I tried to hold back as much as I could, but I couldn't.
Trust me, I'm trying too. But it's gonna come sooner or later. Just give it a sec.
Yeah.
Moving on from
45 minutes in to get the first one out. So
yeah, it took long enough. Enough. But from there, taking long enough, why not go ahead and talk about this person? Just this past week, Jericho went ahead and put out a video, which also is a side note off of Talk is Jericho, which is his podcast. And his special guest was the one, the only limitless Keith Lee, where he went and told all. Peeps, he even talked about the whole Bearcat incident where he thought and he knew that fans were confused because it was either he was a heel or a face, but he didn't like where anything was going because they try to go ahead and mix around his character so many different times in a span of how many months. And he decided that it was just best that if he try to go ahead and not want to do what he wanted to do. Peeps, what do you think about this whole thing?
Well, first off, I'm glad Keith Lee is in a better place now as
Of
far
course.
as mentally, physically. He looks like he's gained a little bit of weight, but that's going to happen when you are coming off of COVID and having some of the other things that have happened to him health wise and getting his
Yes.
cardio back since he hadn't really been used in a ring for quite some time. So that'll come eventually, whatever is the case. If he's happy at his current weight, then hey, as long as he's healthy, that's all I care about. And what I see is that Keith Lee is a special talent. Once again, the WWE, they seemingly don't know what to do with the guys that are coming into that company that Vince did not create. And Vince has an archetype that he sees when it comes to certain wrestlers. And if you don't fit that archetype, he's not going to push you. And it's like, well, I see something in him. Let's go with the Bearcat thing because he saw a Bearcat right way back in the 60s and thought that he could attach the name to him and it didn't work out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For those that don't know who Bearcat Wright is, you can go online, check it out. You can read up on him. I don't want to turn this into a history lesson. But what it is it was to try and see if they can get some nostalgia points put on him and kind of rebrand him in that name. Let's really be honest about this. Vince McMahon does not know what to do with a talent like Keith Lee, who is big, strong, powerful, but can yet do some lucha moves. We've seen him do a plancha. We've seen him do dives through the ropes. We've seen him do lots of other things, and yet is as soft-spoken and eloquent, which is germane to this argument that we're having now, is that it's part of his persona. And you can't change it if you don't have anything to go with it, if you don't have anything to bounce off of and accentuate that. Okay, fine. He is a very intelligent person, very articulate, very, very Wordsworth-like. Go with that. Don't try to change him for the sake of putting him in this bubble and then trying to build around that bubble. Because as we saw, it did not work. It confused the fans. And the fans were very vocal about a lot of this stuff. Now that he's in AEW, the world is his oyster. And I hope that he gets exactly the push that he deserves.
Certainly right. Certainly right. Wouldn't put it any better. But that is enough for Fast Track. We are going ahead and moving on to the next topics, of course. Fast Track took a fat minute today, but I mean, to go ahead and make up for the past 2 weeks, this was certainly good. Guys, always go ahead and know that if you want to go ahead and catch up on the latest news, updates, or you want to go ahead and talk to us about something new, peeps, he's already pointing right down to it. On IG at Saturday Afternoons _main event or on Twitter at Saturday Main. And with the first topic of business that we are going to go ahead and cover, if you know what it is and you see that we're smiling, it is because Tony Khan pulls a Shane McMahon. Amen, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And you know the funny thing and the ironic thing about this is that he even said in his promo, there is no Shane, it's me. It doesn't get any better than this.
Yes.
And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, let me go ahead and put it to you this way. Everybody who is around Attitude Era days knows exactly where they were when Shane McMahon uttered the words off a live cast from Raw to Nitro with his pops saying, Dad, yes, the contract reads McMahon, but it reads Shane McMahon. Yes, I now own WCW. Fast forward 21 years later. Although this may not be the same thing, let's put it this way. You have Tony Khan, a young, uprising kid who you can probably say was born with a silver spoon in his mouth since his father owns Wembley, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and almost any other thing you can probably think of, he is entitled to go ahead and have the chance to have whatever he wants. But with Tony Khan, he is one of those ultimate fans of professional wrestling. Like me and like Peeps Nate, you can probably consider him a wrestling encyclopedia because he was around the Attitude Era, he lived through Ruthless Aggression, and now he's owning one of the youngest and promising wrestling companies nationally. So you would probably have to say that, okay, the grass is greener on the other side for Tony Khan. And it's only getting started. Why? Because this past Wednesday, he opened up Dynamite with an announcement. And of course, you know when Tony Khan says that he has a big announcement,
There's going to be a big announcement.
Exactly. Either it comes down to a new wrestler being there, or this is probably really big news. In my mind, I was thinking one of two things, peeps. Either we were getting trio titles, or Bray Wyatt was going to show up on national television. But of course, that wasn't the case. But this right here, it brought a smile to my face.
Yes.
I sat there and I heard him say, okay, there was a company that started about 20 years ago named Ring of Honor. And once he said that, I said, this can only mean one and one thing. They have a consortium. I was like, okay, Rich, shut up. He's not done yet. And once I said he's not done yet, he goes ahead and he says, well, I just signed a new deal today, and I'm not a new owner of Ring of Honor. Peeps, instantly, I get your text, and I look at it, and I'm in awe. I didn't text back until like 10 minutes later. Sorry about that. But I sat there, and I was like, this SOB really just bought Ring of Honor. But the good thing about all of this is that now he's running two companies at once. Now he has much more creative freedom to do so many other things. And you brought it upon my attention with a text message that I didn't get to. And here's why, everybody. Because when Peeps sends out a text message, either it's long and you really have to ponder about it, or it's short and it's self-explanatory. But this one, it got my attention the minute I started reading it. And I was like, wow, like this right here, you have to go ahead and think about this. And here's exactly what he said, and I quote, here is something that AEW can do if done carefully. How about an invasion angle, but done differently? Tony Khan already announced that he bought AEW, but he hasn't said how it's being run out of TV deals yet. How about done if these Ring of Honor stars were last associated with the company actually invaded AEW and interrupted their shows, trying to find out why and who did it? A different champion is getting laid out, jumped. As this goes up in flames, you find out that the person involved is none other than the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. We don't know if he's signing with WWE yet, so imagine if this whole thing was a swerve to get Cody over as a heel and do a proper invasion angle. Obviously, we would need it to be tweaked, but what do you think? And I quote, guys, when he said that, and once he uttered the words Cody, I sat there and I was like, dude kind of has a point. What if? Just what if? Because now he buys AEW. He buys Ring of Honor. Cody is nowhere to be found. Leaves AEW for what? We don't know. Just got to think about it. But me, when he sent this, I said, what if Ring of Honor's next first signing is actually Cody Rhodes? What if? But in due time, we all have to figure that out. But I myself, this whole thing with him having to go ahead and buy Ring of Honor, as a wrestling fan, you sit there and you say to yourself, okay, let's see where he goes with this. But now it's like, okay, are we going to get to see Jonathan Gresham on All Elite Wrestling Television? Are we going to get to see the Briscoes? What are we getting from this? Peeps, what are your, full-on thoughts about everything of this perimeter?
Well, first off, I thought about that when because I've been reading news about how Cody hasn't signed with anyone yet.
Yeah.
And then we know we saw what happened since we didn't really get a chance to really go too in depth about Cody leaving AEW. But when Cody he put in his mentions that we were leaving, Brandy was leaving. There's certain things that we want to be able to do, and that whole explanation of him leaving the company behind. They're in good hands. I'm happy to have helped create such a great platform and move on, etc. Everybody was assuming that, okay, one of two things. Either it's a swerve that he's doing this because of some kind of an angle, because they've been teasing him maybe turning heel, or he legitimately leaving to go back to McMahon. Now, my mindset has always been, why would Cody go back to the WWE if he'd already been there for a decade? And all of the things that he did with AEW was almost like sacrilege to what Vince and his product was. He said, what? He did the whole Triple H thing and pulled out the sledgehammer and destroyed the throne and said, he pulled out the golden shovel, and he made all references to Triple H and WWE and the brass ring and all the other things to make fun of the company, to try to bring attention that AEW is not structured in that same way.
Exactly.
And then he's gone. Fast forward with the whole Ring of Honor story, and it's like, well, Ring of Honor is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest promotions that has ever been. It's been around 20 years. And people continue to call it an independent promotion. It hasn't been an indie promotion in a very long time. They just haven't had the TV exposure.
Exactly.
Sinclair Broadcasting bought the company, I believe, 7 years ago. And they've been on a lot of the syndicated Sinclair networks that are around the nation, which a lot of Sinclair networks, I believe, are owned by Fox. So a lot of people haven't seen Ring of Honor unless they go on to their website or was able to see it in their market, or maybe go to one of the over-the-air networks that I've seen is called Stadium, which would show Ring of Honor content every week. So you figure you're giving them the opportunity to get noticed, get everybody out there to look at the product and find out Ring of Honor is really good. And they've had some really good matches, really good feuds, and now we know the germination of it happening. Here are the bigger implications of Ring of Honor being bought by Tony Khan and being part of AEW. I remember an interview that Tony Khan said probably about a year and a half ago. And he said that at some point he would like the AEW product to evolve similar to what the WWE has, where they have multiple marketing partnerships, video games, merchandising, music CDs. What I believe they have a CD coming out, if it isn't already out, of their ring entrance music.
Yeah.
That I've been seeing advertised on their shows in the last couple of weeks. So they're doing that. T-shirt merchandising, which a lot of people have nicknamed them the T-shirt company. So there's a lot of that. The number one thing that they have not done yet outside of the Bleacher Report is getting digital licensing for their stuff, getting their product out there. Same way that I keep saying that the WWE is a content creation company. They've bought everything from Ring of Honor. Video library, rings, logos, merchandising, all of the contracts that were there. Everything about the company now belongs to Tony Khan. What can they do with that? There's a little company that I've heard that is called Warner Media, that they show their AEW product on one of their networks, which is Turner. Turner also has now, within that family, a whole bunch of digital networks, one being HBO Max, a bunch of other content on the digital platform to get people into there to show movies and regular TV shows, etc. You've got 20 years of video footage that you can use as content, mixed in with the 3 years that AEW has been on TV, that you can actually say, for X amount of money with your such and such subscription, maybe now you can get to see all of this stuff. And then you leverage that with the fact that a lot of those guys that were in Ring of Honor are in AEW today. How great is that? That works perfectly. So in that sense, brilliant move. Here's where I'm scared, or not scared, but trepidatious on this. As you just alluded to, Tony Khan now has to deal with 2 promotions now. He already has a huge bloated roster on AEW. And they have Dark Elevation on YouTube and then have to kind of get that going along with Rampage and Dynamite. Now you've got another company to deal with. Are you going to run that separately? Are you going to do a proper invasion angle? How are you going to do that? What network are you going to put it on? How are you going to do that? That can work fine. Here's something that somebody could probably do. Maybe you could take Rampage and turn that into a Ring of Honor show. You put that on Fridays, and you have, Ring of Honor is now on Fridays, and they're going up against this here. There are a lot of things that can happen with this, and I hope that this does not get ruined, because we saw what the invasion angle with WCW happened, and that was a moneymaker. They left millions of dollars right on the table. I hope Tony Khan and the people that are within his circle, they know what they're doing and leverage this correctly so that we get what we want to see, which is more of the great wrestling and the tradition that Ring of Honor has, without toning it down, messing it up, and eventually just dissolving it at some point.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I can totally see happening is, as you said, with that whole text message, because I've had a lot of time to think about it. As you said, champions keep getting laid out. AEW originals keep getting laid out. People keep getting beaten up, jumped, whatever the case may be, by one person. Now, Tony goes ahead and sees that. Tony wants to give this person a chance to get signed to Ring of Honor as the first signing. Who knows? Come out. You hear Cody's music. He comes out. Lays waste to, Tony and stuff like that. Who knows? Probably beats up on Tony. Grabs that contract and probably double crosses him by probably replacing the contract with maybe Tony signing over Ring of Honor to Cody, and it turns into a whole thing being him now that he's the owner in his consortium. Is gonna be like, something, I left because I noticed how much of an imbecile or how self-centered you were, and I'm gonna go ahead and take Ring of Honor and bring it to new heights, and I'm going to take AEW down. We already know
he could actually do a shot and say, you got all this talent that you keep signing, how about you use them? When now I own Ring of Honor, I'll give them a place to work, and how about I put them on Fridays?
And you get the whole point, peeps. This right here can turn into something golden. We just have to wait and see how crazy it gets. But I'm all for it. I am all for it.
Did you see the goosebumps again? The hairs. Yeah,
it's happening. Yeah. It's happening.
Yes.
Trust me. Yes. I see it, peeps. I see it. You don't have to say no more. I see it. But guys, certainly trust me. This is only the first half, because we have questions to get to, and after the questions, of course, we have predictions for All Elite Wrestling's pay-per-view. Great to say that. AEW Revolution. So don't go anywhere. In 30 seconds, Saturday afternoon's main event will be right back. Okay, once more, welcome back to episode 5 of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. And now, of course, we move on to the questions, guys. I always say this. We have a lot of good questions coming in, but you want to send more? You want to tell us how you feel about certain situations, guys? Down below at Saturday afternoons _main event on our Instagram. Shoot us a message. It will be featured on the next show. But without further ado, trust me, we have enough questions to go ahead and go around now. So let's start out with the first one. And this one is coming from a fan. And his name is Max Lewis. Shout out to Max for the first time going ahead and coming through and shooting a question the same. And this question is somewhat sports related and wrestling related at the same time. And he says, who is a sports athlete that you consider the heart and soul of each of your respective sports teams, and the wrestler that is the heart and soul of the industry? Me and Peace, we can totally answer this question together because, I mean, we are New York sports fans and we suffer a lot. So,
yes.
If I'm going to have to say correctly, I'm going to go ahead and go off this quick. If I have to say the Knicks, Patrick Ewing, heart and soul. Never say anything less. When it comes to baseball, I'm a Mets fan, so I'll have to say Mike Piazza. Or it can be Darryl Strawberry or Dwight Gooden. But to be on the safe side of things, I'm gonna go with Mike Piazza. Okay, we got that one down. And most likely football, Joe Klecko. You people that understand why will understand why, because as a Jets fan, if somebody's gonna go ahead and stick through with a team even after having a broken neck, it's gonna have to be Klecko. I mean, yeah, nevertheless. But the wrestler that is the heart and soul of the industry, Peeps, you know something? I know my tag team partner knows me than almost any other person very well, so he knows the answer to this question. Peeps, you can go ahead and answer that one.
I don't have any gongs to play right about now, but I think I know where you're headed with this one. But
of course.
I'm pretty sure that the heart and soul from your side would definitely be The Undertaker, just by virtue of what he's done. And I'm pretty sure there are millions of people that would say the same thing all over the world. Wrestlers, as far as wrestlers go, for me, there are so many wrestlers that I have been a fan of for different reasons. Obviously, Ric Flair has always been my favorite wrestler, has been the heart and soul of a lot of wrestling as I've grown up and watched it. But I've also loved Nick Bockwinkel. Barry Windham has been, and people don't realize this, Barry Windham is probably my second or third favorite wrestler of all time. So that should tell you something about just what he could do in ring as a wrestler when he evolved as a horseman and became a heel for the first time, and all of the things that he was able to do. Controversial as it may be, Chris Benoit, great in-ring talent, just horrible ending.
Yes.
But yes, if you're going to go there and say that a particular wrestler, if we're going on basis of a wrestler that gives you the essence of what wrestling has been, Flair being my favorite, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to probably put this as far as just in input, as far as the attention to how it changed the wrestling business as a whole, I would probably say Hulk Hogan. And the reason why I say that is, although it's a controversial pick for other reasons, the reason why I bring Hogan's name up is just based on what he meant to the business. Because before Hulk Hogan, there were no wrestlers getting on Sports Illustrated. There were no wrestlers really getting movie deals on a consistent basis. I know Terry Funk was in a wrestling movie with Sylvester Stallone, and I know that Vern Gagne was in a wrestling movie years and years and years ago, and there were a lot of things like that. But the crossover appeal and all of the things that were done with Hulk Hogan, the getting of celebrities. Matter of fact, part of the reason why WrestleMania 1 happened was because of the star power that Hulk Hogan attracted. So if you're going to go there, yeah. As far as sports athletes concerned, I'm a Rangers fan, so obviously Mark Messier gets a huge nod, and we can go over all of those New York teams that have gone in and done certain things. As far as the Giants, Lawrence Taylor, nobody bigger, nobody better. I mean, teams created formations to stop Lawrence Taylor. That's where that one back formation that Washington used to do with Joe Gibbs was created. That offset one back formation was set just to slow down Lawrence Taylor. So you have to go there. At least that's where I'm going. As far as the Knicks, like we said before, both Knicks fans, I will agree with you on the Patrick Ewing as far as the heart and soul. Although he didn't win any championships, there were a lot of other Knicks. You can look at Walt Frazier and a lot of other great talents in the past.
Yes.
But Ewing is the one that I connected with still to this day. As a matter of fact, I only have 3 Knicks jerseys in my existence. And the first one that I bought was a Patrick Ewing.
So that should say all. I mean,
Yes.
I already know you probably don't have a John Starks jersey.
No.
You despise that man.
I don't despise him. I just, as truth be known,
it was a sad birthday gift.
I said this before, and I'll say this before. It was a sad birthday gift because they lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals against the Rockets on my birthday. So yeah, okay, and I'll move on. I don't want to.
You digress.
Yes. So there you go. There's number 2.
Second one. Funny how ironic that a non-wrestling topic gets you to say I digress on S.A.M.E.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for getting me amped
up. It happens, peeps. It happens.
I understand, but thank you for the question.
Max Lewis.
Yes.
For your first question on S.A.M.E. Greatly appreciate it. Really good question. Next one comes from Hot Rod 316. Hopefully he doesn't go ahead and boil your blood either. But he says, do you think Tony Khan will be able to handle running 2 different promotions at the same time? This question is mostly for you peeps.
I think we're going to have to see. First of all, I'm surprised he doesn't have Burnout running AEW right now.
Yeah.
So he, not only is he running the company, for people that don't realize this, he's doing all of the booking. He took a lot of the creative control that a lot of the wrestlers had for AEW, which was one of the reasons why they were there. And he's streamlining it himself. And although he is getting input from the wrestlers as far as, what do you think works with this? And do you want to do things with that? Yeah. But to have 2 promotions, I would hope that he has somebody else with him, whether it's a group of guys that are into the booking aspect. If you want to call them writers, you want to call them bookers, whatever it is, and they keep that entity separate from AEW. But can he run them both at the same time? That's too much for anyone to ask. I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think he's eventually going to let AEW be run by himself, and he's going to have somebody else who is just as talented, more so in tune with running a company and maybe his vision per se, but letting Ring of Honor run and keep the reputation that they've had. So I don't think that's going to be the case.
Certainly not.
I don't think it's good for his health to run 2 promotions at the same time.
I mean, if Vince can do it, even though it didn't really count as...
There aren't any people on this planet that are like Vince. Vince is a completely different person. The man gets no sleep. So, 76-year-old man should not be bench pressing 450 pounds at 2 a.m. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah,
so,
Vince is...
There you go.
Now I'm starting to guess that whole steroids case back in the 90s may have been 100% true. I mean, Vince is 76 and he's still pumping 4. That's another story for another time. Not going ahead and calling out the fence for this one. Next question. Certainly, thank you, Hot Rod, for that question. The next one comes from Doctor of Thugonomics. And he says, phenomenal one word, where you at yesterday? We were ready to acknowledge you at the FTX Arena last night for SmackDown. Things come up and things happen, okay? Calm down. I understand that the listeners would want to acknowledge me. I understand I lead you guys to the island of relevancy. But it happens. It happens. Why? Because SmackDown was still okay to enjoy. Even though I heard about the dark shows, I heard about the dark matches, seemed as if it was okay, whatever. What I'm really looking forward to tonight, if I can say, peeps, is how they're going to go ahead and tie up that story with Brock defending the title at the Garden tonight. Because you remember exactly at the contract signing last week that Paul said, listen, I guarantee that you're going to go ahead and lose the title at the Garden on March 5th. Peace, well, that time has come.
Yes.
And knowing Paul Heyman, he's almost like one of those, I would say, crystal ball readers, psychics, of course, because anything he says, of course, he always says it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. He didn't say it this time, but something tells me, peeps, that Roman Reigns is on his flight right now to New York City, probably landing at JFK or LaGuardia, and later tonight making his presence known at Madison Square Garden to cost Brock Lesnar the title. Do you think so?
Of course I do. And the reason why I say that is because why would they mention a house show if something wasn't going to happen? Doesn't make any sense. I said this before when they first announced it on Twitter. They're talking about a house show. The last time they talked about a house show on TV, if I'm not mistaken, AJ Styles won the U.S. title.
Yeah.
I believe it was at the Garden or was it the Barclays Center? One of the two.
The Garden. Yep.
But when you don't, and in all reality, I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if they put that house show, at least the main event match, up on the network. That's what I thought they were going to do. They mentioned it.
I heard they're taping it professionally too. So
yeah. So like I said, and I've stated this before. It makes zero sense based on the current structure of the WWE, how they have both rosters split for both shows. To have a unification match at WrestleMania, it looks good on paper, it sounds good on paper, but I firmly believe it makes much more sense if they're going to do it in this way, to have somebody chasing a championship and then one person winning the championship as the last thing you see at WrestleMania. I don't know what Vince is thinking right now. Maybe he sees another Daniel Bryan moment with somebody raising two belts in the air, or Triple H time with him having two championships in the air after he beat Chris Jericho. If that's what he's looking at, and they're thinking about unifying both belts, or maybe doing what they did with the both women's championships with Becky Lynch being Becky two belts, if that's the case with a wrestler who is, for the most part-time, unless you see Roman winning at WrestleMania, I don't know where they're going with this.
It's hard because at the same time, each respective television source wants their own champion. So
exactly,
peeps,
that's the corner you paint yourself in when you split the brands and you give them this kind of money to go ahead and say, well, this is what we want. We have a roster of stars. We're going to have championships. We're going to have one champion. If you're going to have Roman Reigns on this, we're going to have somebody that's here on this championship run on this side of it. And you figure they spent $1 billion on both brands to have them on their respective networks. They better have a reason to have one champion on each one, because if they're going to unify them, then somebody's going to be going back and forth and back and forth. I don't know what the end game is here.
But certainly one thing that we both can agree on is somehow, some way tonight, by the time it hits midnight, we're going to know that Brock Lesnar loses the title. That's just how I see it. I certainly see it like that, because there ain't no way he's going into WrestleMania with the title. Ain't no such thing as a winner take all. This thing is getting dubbed as it, just to go ahead and probably sell tickets for the time being.
Of course.
And it did exactly just that, and it worked its magic. But now certainly they say that Madison Square Garden is the most famous arena, and it holds its moniker to this day.
Yes.
Tonight, Roman Reigns is about to make it 10 times more better, because he's going to cost him the title again. It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler.
That's a spoiler.
Exactly right. Appreciate you on that one, peeps. Dr. Thugonomics, good question. Certainly. Probably make it back for the next one. Probably an AEW event, most likely. I want an AEW pay-per-view to go ahead and come down here. If it does, trust me, I'll have the whole AEW fans acknowledge me. You know, why not? Next question comes from Anthony We Trust, and he says, Vince calling Michael Cole a horrible human being has to be the funniest thing since The Rock's segments with Kevin Kelly and Jonathan Coachman.
Yes. That was funny. That was literally funny. Oh boy. Yeah. I think when you look at what they were doing to try to build this matchup with Pat McAfee, and now it's with Austin Theory, and all of those things that happen, they're bringing this whole thing to a front in a way that is actually even as entertaining as I thought. If this comes across as anything like the match that McAfee had
with Adam Cole
in NXT with Adam Cole, if it's anything like that, I'm sold. We already know what kind of an athlete he is, and we didn't realize what kind of a wrestler he was until he actually got in the ring with Adam Cole and showed out in that match. So if he has anything like that in his repertoire, another goal like that, there's another pretty good match.
I mean, certainly. I mean, we know what Austin Theory's capable of. So, I mean, with him and McAfee in the ring, you know, as I said, this is probably one of those celebrity matches where we can look forward to, but I'm still not sold on so many celebrities being at Mania. That's just me, peeps. But having to go ahead and think about that, about how, you know, this is the first time in a long time where we actually got to go ahead and hear, you know, a high dominant figure in professional wrestling go ahead and, you know, call out a commentator. Last time we got that, it was like The Rock going ahead and saying, you know, sweet cream on an ice cream sandwich with any blue hell. Are you doing a Coachman?
Yes.
Making fun of Kevin Kelly how many times, you know, in the duration of a month?
Yes.
There's enough to go ahead and say about that. But in Tony We Trust, 100% correct on that one.
Yes.
That's the end of the questions, guys. Thank you for the questions. We always love them. You want to keep sending them? Right down there at Saturday Afternoons _main event. And you will go ahead and send in that question. Guarantee it will be featured on the next episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. So get to it. Send in those questions and trust me, you will enjoy them. And without further ado, peeps, we get into the last topic of today. As I said, Revolution is in 24 hours. And we will have the fair dominance of witnessing what may and what possibly could be show of the year. Card stacked. The wrestlers that are on it, influential. This right here makes its case for what could be one of the biggest pay-per-views of the modern era. Now, of course, I don't know if you want to get into the pre-matches, because the pre-matches are, you know, it's whatever. But I mean, there's two of those pre-matches that I'm really looking forward to. Number one, you see it right there at the top. Hook versus QT Marshall.
Yes.
Or should I say Marshall?
There you go. I'm
so sorry.
Gotta get it correct.
Listen. It's in almost every other wrestling fan. I can't say Marshall. I like saying Marshall. You know, yes. It's okay.
But you would be wrong.
sadly, yes. Unfortunately, but it's whatever to me. But Hook, I see him taking the dub on this one. How about yourself, Pete?
Oh, yes. Without question. Not only do I think that Hook is going to win, I wouldn't be surprised if the match was like that quick, because they really are showcasing Hook in ring as the babyface killer, and he's just going. I wouldn't be surprised if he just jumped on him and choked him out. Like, that was quick. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hook is just that good to us. I mean,
yes,
it's Hook. Send him.
It's Hook. Just send him. Yes, just send him. Put him in red rum. Choke him out. The match is over. Exactly. He's breathing. Right. He won't even breathe hard. Get in the ring, jump on him, tap him out, get up, walk back, and then he can go in the locker room and look at the rest of the card.
Exactly. Layla Hirsch versus Chris Statlander. I'm a Chris Statlander fan. I'll stand for that one. I think Chris is taking the dub on that one. As I said, next match that I'm really looking forward to, the House of Black, which we didn't go ahead and get into today, but certainly another big name. Buddy Matthews is now All Elite.
Yes.
To WWE fans, it's Buddy Murphy. Just putting that out there. And another ex-WWE superstar, Eric Rowan, who in AEW terms is Eric Redbeard, and he is going to be with the Death Triangle, going up against the House of Black.
Yes.
Peeps, even though there are 4 ex-WWE stars in this one single match,
yes,
with the exception of Brody King and Penta, which I noticed that they changed his name, but I'm not going to get into that because it seems like Tony's picking up a page out of Vince's book, but I'm not going to go ahead and get into that because I hope and pray to God that that's not the case. How do you see this match going?
Well, I have, and this is just my thing, I wouldn't, if Eric Redbeard is actually All Elite on the long term, don't be surprised if Eric Redbeard actually turns on these two in the match and joins the House of Black. I would not be surprised at all because Eric Redbeard fits the archetype of those guys. Long hair, tattoos, big, strong guys. And to kind of create a Wyatt family but a darker version of them, somewhat supernatural, as long as they don't go too far into the supernatural aspect of it. But if it's done correctly, I could see that happening in the match. But if they don't, and it's just a straight up match, this is just going to be a brutal match, and I can see the Death Triangle winning this match somehow, some way.
Over the House of Black.
Yes.
That's with the exception of Eric Redbeard not training on them, though.
Yes. But I have a feel I would not be surprised if he turns on them at some point in the match.
Understandable. I hear you on that. From there, I see. I can go ahead and roll with that too. But I think now with your observation, I think I can slowly edge towards Redbeard going ahead and training on the Death Triangle. But that's just me. With next match for the TBS Championship. That can't say it.
Yes.
Yes.
That person show.
Yes, that person show.
That person show. TPS.
Yes, TPS. Yeah, there you go. Yes. Jade Cargill versus Ty Conti. Peeps, listen. From the minute that I went to AEW and Jade Cargill pointed at me, from that moment, listen, people can say that she did it. I know she did. Jade Cargill has, probably been that one influential female wrestler that I want to see go ahead and go crazy in the long run. And to be on top of that, she still hasn't lost. She's undefeated.
Yes.
Now, Ty Conti has pretty much done it all in the business except win a major female's title. But she's faced on from the likes of Britt Baker. She's faced many other women in AEW. She has a pretty solid record. Jade Cargill versus Ty Conti for this title, it's going to be a good match. But, peeps, in my mind, Jade Cargill's coming on top.
Oh, yeah, without question. This is a Cargill. This will be a showcase. And I hope that one of the things that they've been doing with Jade Cargill, which I don't like, is that her matches have been a little bit too long, which then exposes parts of her game that are still green. One thing that they need to do is keep her off the ropes, because if you remember the match with Ruby Soho, where she went to the second rope and she looked uncomfortable, she almost fell off the ropes. It's like, wait until she's more confident in doing those kinds of moves, and even more so. Let's really be honest. Jade Cargill does not need to be going to the ropes and doing certain moves. She is absolutely destroying whoever gets in the ring, and this match shouldn't even be that long. I'm expecting a pretty decent match, but I think Jade Cargill will win this one without question.
Oh yes, I mean she gives me threads and flashbacks to what Jazz was pre Ruthless Aggression era. Yes. Like this is the type of specimen that Jade Cargill is. Does she need to be using ropes? Nope. But
no.
All I can tell you, peeps, she is definitely that women's wrestler.
Oh yes,
she's taking a W. I'd be surprised if Ty Conti would pull out a win.
Yes, and if she does pull out if Conti wins this match, it'll be the silliest move that you could do with a wrestler that you're just trying to build as a monster. You don't do that.
Would that be the downfall of Tony Khan? We don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see on this certain episode of AEW Revolution.
Yes.
That's all we'll say for now. But still in our books, Jade Cargill taking the W. Next, 6-man tornado tag team match. AHFO, which consists of Andrade El Idolo, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy versus the team of Darby Allin, Sting, and Sammy Guevara. And I still don't think that mix is right. Funny that I would say this. I see Darby, Sammy, and Sting taking the W with the.
Oh, I don't think it's funny that you would say it, because I actually believe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the ending would have to be either Darby or Sting wanting to challenge Guevara for the TNT title. What do you think, peeps?
That makes perfect sense. I mean, basically, I don't know if you watched Rampage yesterday, and the first match that they did between El Idolo and Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin, that was one of the best matches that I've seen as far as a triple threat match. three-way dance, whatever you want to call it. That was a very good match. And that opened the show. It was like 20 minutes long. Those are the kinds of matches that you want to see.
Yes.
Now you're going to say that those guys are going to be in a six-man trios match amongst the other teams that they're going to be on. I'm expecting to see another really good match. And like you said before, Sting and Darby and Sammy Guevara should come out on top of this.
Oh, yes. Yes. The next match, three-way tag team match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Jurassic Express. Before I get into my Baltimore phase, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start singing that whole song, Tarzan Boy. I'm not going to do it, guys. Of course, Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Luchasaurus versus Red Dragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Young Bucks, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson. Peeps, with all due respect, we both know that the Jurassic Express is up there for face tag teams for me. And with us, we are big fans of indie tag teams because Red Dragon and the Young Bucks, they've withstood Father Time. They've been around for a long time, and especially during indie time. You know, we sit there, you know, we look at this and we're like, yo, these two in a triple threat tag team match for tag team. Okay, like, you know, this is gonna be, but it's hard for me to say because I rule Jurassic Express out of this. Because now to me, it's between Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. And I'm still not sold on who can go ahead and win this because this can go any way.
Yes.
What do you think, Peeps?
Who would I want to win? I would want to see Red Dragon come out of this match on top because the Bucks have already had the tag team championships and they had it for quite some time too. After initially sacrificing holding on to the belts to help establish the AEW tag teams division. So if you're going to look at it from a practicality standpoint of who's going to come out on top in this one, that's what I think would happen. Would I be surprised if Jurassic Express wins the match somehow? I wouldn't be surprised. But the rooting section in me is I'm going to make a bold prediction, and I'm going to say that Red Dragon comes out on top and wins the tag team championship.
Say no more. Red Dragon.
Yes.
Well, whatever Peeps goes with, I think I'll go with that too. Red Dragon for the count. We'll take it, certainly. Next match. This one we've been looking forward to for a long time. A real long time. Bryan Danielson versus that wild thing, Jon Moxley. And it's not even some type of Extreme Rules match. It's nothing out of that ordinary. It's a singles match. So, what type of technicality are we going to go ahead and see in this, Peeps? Because we know what Bryan Danielson is capable of.
Yes.
But we know Jon Moxley is more of the brawler. So, what is there to look for in this match?
Blood, broken bones, and I think at the end of the match, there will probably be a sign of respect at the end of this. So I'm going to go with Moxley coming out on top in this one, even though we know based on what Danielson has been doing, Danielson has been winning so many matches over the last few, ever since he lost that championship rematch with Hangman Adam Page. I don't believe he's lost a match since. So you bring that in, and then you bring in Moxley, who's now coming off of that comeback and that whole thing of, you know, taking time off to recover from rehab and then get in, and he hasn't lost a match since he's been back either, I don't think. Going into this, based on what they were talking about as far as if you want me to team with you, I got to bleed with you first. And I think Moxley is going to come out on top in this one.
Can certainly say the same thing myself. But with the next,
it's going to be violent. I'll almost guarantee. I wouldn't be surprised if the referee was bleeding at the end of this match.
You really think so?
I would not be surprised.
I mean, I already know we're going to go ahead and see a lot of, you know, chest marks on Bryan Danielson. That's just what it is. I mean, you know,
his chest is gonna look like a road map of upstate New York by the end of the night.
Upstate. Yes. I would have just said the city for God's sakes, but okay.
Yes.
But yes, Moxley for the win. I'll take that. Next match, it's Eddie Kingston versus. Give me a second because I need to go ahead and do this. I need to get this one off my chest.
Okay.
The Lionheart, the Ayatollah of Rock and Roller, Le Champion, bring on the bubbly. We are talking about the one, the only, first undisputed champion, the only man who beat Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and the same night to win both titles, and goes on to main event WrestleMania against Triple H. We are talking the one and only man and the first to win the AEW World title. We are talking, truth be told, Y2J, Chris Jericho. Peeps, I needed to get that one off because I always needed to go. It's Chris Jericho. What do we see in this one?
What I see in this one is the return of the Painmaker. I would not be surprised if he decided, if this goes past this match as far as a feud goes, I would not be surprised if he decided to pull the Painmaker out. We haven't seen the Painmaker in AEW in a while. So it's a big pay-per-view. We know what's happening in this feud. The Kingston disrespect angle with him and Jericho and the Inner Circle. And we know with Santana Ortiz leaving, all of that dynamic, I think where this goes is in a very violent way. I think they're turning Jericho completely heel, and I think the heel Jericho will come out on top in this one. But that's
I can certainly say the same thing, but I think it's because Jericho looks like he's back in his 2001 phase. That's me, because one thing that I noticed is that, like, you know, wrestling fans, you say it best, peeps. Wrestling fans are really jaded.
Yes.
You know, they're out of all proportions. Months ago, people were talking like, oh, Jericho looks out of weight. Jericho's this, Jericho's that. Does he look like he can go back to his old form? Wow, the bubbly's really going ahead and going up on him. And now we saw this different version of Chris Jericho where he's back to normal weight. He looks like he's 30 years younger. He looks like he just started in the business again, and he's about to go ahead and reiterate his feud with Dean Malenko back in WCW days. That is that old Lionheart Chris Jericho.
Yes.
So I really see Chris Jericho taking a W to start this whole heel Painmaker persona once more.
Yes.
With a little hint of Lionheart, because I see the charisma again. So Chris Jericho for the win on your side. Same here. We'll just have to wait and see what the results are. But Speaking of results, we are getting a ladder match. And that consists of Christian Cage, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, pour me some OJ for Orange Cassidy, and the one, the only, limitless Keith Lee. And this is a Face of the Revolution ladder match for a future TNT Championship match. I'm going to say this once, I'm going to say this now. Keith Lee is winning this match. All sides point to him. If you really thought Wardlow, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, or Orange Cassidy, and I hate to say this, yes, to Christian Cage, had a chance, not happening. Keith Lee is winning this ladder match. Pete, what are your thoughts?
Keith Lee is the logistical way to go with this based on everything that's there. But I think, this is just me, that if you really want to build on a huge face turn, then you give this match to Wardlow and you don't look back. And the reason why I say that is because Wardlow has so much momentum. They've been building his program with the turn from MJF. He's going to get that championship match. And I would not be surprised if he gets that championship match and then you see MJF come out and say, well, you won that championship match, but you got to bequeath that championship to me because of everything that I've done for you. MJF being the heel that he is.
Yes.
So I could see that happening. But as I said before, the only two logistical people in this match that can win this, as far as I'm concerned, is either Keith Lee or Wardlow. But I personally think Wardlow is going to win this. I think he's got the fans behind him, just like Keith Lee. But I think based on how they've been building Wardlow over the last 6 months, I wouldn't be surprised if that actually happened.
Got you. But speaking on, crazy matches and titles, next match is Thunder Rosa versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. I'm a Britt Baker stan, so have to. And you already know who I'm going with, so it's self-explanatory. Peeps,
yes.
What do you think?
Is this the time for Thunder Rosa to win a championship?
Certainly not to me.
And I think that if you really believe that this is going to be the time for Thunder Rosa to get that, because first of all, she is over. We've seen her in so many really good matches over the last couple of months.
Of course.
The money is in Britt Baker right now. And if you notice, they've been kind of teasing kind of like a break in the faction with her and Rebel and Jamie Hayter and all of this dissension going on. I would not be overly surprised if Thunder Rosa won the championship because one of them cost her the match at some point. Now, is it going to happen? It depends on if they still feel that the money isn't keeping that belt on her, especially with her association with Adam Cole. If she's championship material and they want to make sure she's the longest reigning AEW Women's World Champion in history, which I believe she already is, if she's not close to it, then yeah. But you keep the belt on her until you get another challenger that's worthy. But if they're going with Thunder Rosa, I would not be surprised if it happened in this pay-per-view.
Got you. Well, next is a match that we previously talked about, and we certainly see something big in this. And truth be told, it's hard to say who will come out, but I myself will go ahead and put it right now that on Saturday, March 5th at 1:43 p.m., the Phenomenal One goes ahead and puts down his marker as MJF winning the dog collar match. Peeps, how about yourself?
That's a good pick. CM Punk hasn't beaten MJF yet. And True. As far as a head-up one-on-one match. So imagine if he ends up getting into this match and loses this match back-to-back. Is there going to be a rubber match, that third match or whatever it would be? They would have to continue to escalate to what the next match would be.
True.
If you're going to go by the normal conventions of first match, MJF won, second match, CM Punk wins, and then you get the third match, and that's going to be up in the air depending on where they book it. I think that based on what we've seen, as I said before, I would not be surprised if MJF, as you thinking, MJF is going to win this dog collar match to really get Max over. The more that I think about it, I actually think that would be good to have MJF win this particular match, because that is further building on top of MJF's brand. I've had to conquer this, I've had to conquer that, and I'm continuing to build on top of that. And then you throw me into this dog collar match, and I've done all of these things to really piss you off, and I still beat you in your own match, and I'm better than you.
And
now, if they're going in the other direction and it's CM Punk is trying to teach the student that I'm still the master, I've forgotten more tricks than you'll remember anything that you've learned, and they go into this knowing that there's going to be a third match down the road, yes, I could see that. But the good thing in if that first scenario happens where Punk ends up losing, MJF can completely rub it in CM Punk's face for as long as humanly possible that I've beaten you at your own game. You're not good enough. And this is what happens when you turn on somebody that you were supposed to be my hero. This is what I'm supposed to be doing now. I'm better than you. That works. So I'm going with MJF coming out on top in this match as well. But I'm trying to see that third match because you know there's going to be a third match. You know there's going to be
Yes,
a third match.
of course. To this type of saga, always gonna have a third match. Well, finally, for the one last nail in the coffin, Revolution has to go ahead and go off on a high note, and that is with this singles match, this main event for the AEW World Title. Hangman Adam Page versus the previously Panama City Playboy, previous head of the Undisputed Era, one of the former members of the Bullet Club, and certainly that one person who we know is just that damn good and can come out with a boom. Best believe Adam Cole. I myself, peeps. Exactly. You had to go ahead and start it off for me. But peeps, with me, listen, I'm not saying that Adam Page is not that good of a title holder. I'm not saying that, his reign needs to be short. But for what this is right now, I've heard previously, since he joined in September, that Adam Cole is not being built right. Adam Cole is not getting any terms of publicity. Adam Cole is somewhat looking like, he's just going to be a mid-carder or anything less than that. Adam Cole is not going to go ahead and get a title shot. Something tells me that this is where Tony Khan is going to draw the line and prove to all those online critics that Adam Cole could be built up right. Now, where can this go? Another mega feud with Hangman Adam Page, probably with a rematch clause. This can go many other places. Probably have him feud with MJF. Maybe, just maybe, you have him feud with Keith Lee. Probably Chris Jericho's another match that you'd probably want to see him go against. The possibilities are endless. I'm not saying that it's not good with Hangman Adam Page, but I myself see and always saw the star power in Adam Cole. So for my pick, tomorrow night, in the winner of this match, at the end of it, we will hear "and you." Put down my marker. Adam Cole wins this match. How about yourself, Beeps?
Wow. This is a tough one to pick because for all of the things that you just stated, as far as the number of different matches that they could be having for whoever wins this match and is champion to turn into feuds. A Bryan Danielson rematch with Page, not out of the question. Kenny Omega's got to come back at some point when he's recovered from all of his injuries. And then we still have that feud potential, who's leading the Elite, what's going on. Now, this will also go in part and parcel with the prediction that I made with Red Dragon winning the belts. If they win the belts and let's say Dr. Britt Baker keeps a championship, you already have an established era, quote unquote. And all you need now is somebody to be undisputed.
Quote unquote.
So, quote unquote. I'll put the air quotes in there.
Yes.
And knowing what they're trying to do is, I think Tony Khan wants to have a faction at the top of his world championship push. And I think the money is more in Page chasing than Page as the champ. And also, let's really be honest, AEW has done I have to be honest, they've done a piss poor job promoting Adam Page as world champion. There are times when you look at the show and you were like, he's the champ? Where is he?
Really? Like,
they'll make a mention of him. It's like, well, wait a minute. Oh, he's the champ? When did he win the belt? Oh, is he on the show? Then there are times when he's not even in the main event block of the hour of the show. So it's like, wait a minute. This is the world champ, and I haven't seen him. Usually you either do one or two things. You either book him in the first spot when the show comes on, or you book him at the top of the show in the second hour. And then, make mention that he's going to be there and then let him cut a promo, or if he's going to wrestle, he's in the main event. How many times have you seen Adam Page in the main event since he's won that championship? He's had the 2 matches against Bryan Danielson. Yes. And then he had that fight with Lance Archer.
Felt like you were about to say Storm for a second.
I almost did. I had a brain is freezing up right now.
No worries.
But if you think about it, what else are they going to do with him now? They haven't promoted him right as world champion. And although the crowd connects with him, they haven't promoted him as such. And I think that's the difference. And with all of the things that Adam Cole can do, cutting promos, doing all of the things that he can do, at some point, they're going to have to go in a certain direction. And if Adam Cole is the champion, then he's going to literally have potentially his own faction with championships. And that works.
Just like NXT days.
Yes.
So at the end of this all, when the dust settles, confetti is falling, pyrotechnics hopefully go off. Yes. We will hear that there is a new champion, and that will be Adam Cole. And most likely, as you said, if Red Dragon goes ahead and wins the titles and Britt Baker retains, then yes, that faction will certainly form. Yes. And when it does, AEW will lead the charge into something good, which is the beginning of a new era.
Yes.
Air quotes right there. And that, my friends, with more quotes, pun intended, is undisputed.
There you go. See? There, you're learning. See, there you go.
Got to. I have to,
Yes.
But, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end to AEW Revolution predictions. And, unfortunately, it's the end to Saturday afternoon's main event, episode 5. Guys, certainly, as I said, thank you guys for coming on, listening to what we have to say, and just sitting down and enjoying and, just letting us project to you all the wrestling news possible, along with a couple of laughs, and not that much I digresses today.
Yes, we only did 2 of them, I believe. Yep,
and you see,
only
this
2.
This is what comes out of it when you don't have to talk about Vince McMahon every single week. You see how fun it gets?
Yes,
trust me,
yes.
It's amazing. It's much more fun. So just don't come up in the news for the next couple of weeks, Vince. We'd graciously enjoy it.
Yes.
But certainly, guys, thank you for going ahead and tuning in. As I always say, you want new updates, you want anything new to go ahead and just add to your day, down below at Saturday Afternoons _main event, or on Twitter at Saturday Main. Guys, as I said, we just went ahead and covered AEW Revolution. So, guys, trust me. So, just so you can go ahead and be hooked on what we're watching, and to enjoy the talk that we're going to have next week about AEW Revolution, go ahead and tune in. No ifs, ands, or maybes about it. You ain't got the cash? Phenomenal One got you. We'll figure it out. But certainly, trust me, you have to watch Revolution. Revolution tomorrow, exactly on Bleacher Report or Fight TV if you live in another country. Hopefully, Tony Khan hasn't put sanctions on Ukraine or Russia due to the fact that there is a certain war happening and he doesn't want to involve the U.S. So if there ain't no sanctions and you can watch it in Russia or Ukraine, for the fans out there and the listeners that are in other countries, we give you all the glory to go ahead and sit there and actually watch it, because certainly this will be something to look forward to. Yes. But, guys, without further ado, on this special episode of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event, I, the Phenomenal One,
and I, the Peeps Nate,
we came,
we saw, and in the words of Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered. See you next week for episode 6. Signing off is the Phenomenal One alongside the Peeps Nate. Thank you. Goodbye. Good week. Farewell.